I remember 7 years ago doing my first beard. I was so scared. Shit, I was like, what do I do? And I was too afraid to use my clippers on his beard because I didn't want to take too much length off. So I literally used shears on the entire thing only. And his lip tapered and everything out. So even now when I mainly use my shears for all my beards. And I can taper their lip out and everything with it too. But that was like the scariest moment ever. But he loved it. And he's like, I don't know how you had such a straight hand with those shears. I'm like, oh, this just comes with the trade. Hi, I'm Joshua Lucero. I'm a barber at Garrett Michael Barbershop in Salt Lake City. And this is my wonderful client, Brent. We've been friends for years, and I've cut his hair for about 2 years now, a year and a half, so. I'm going to start with a really low 0. Maybe a ½ inch off of his neck. And just taper it out from there. We don't go too high. He likes it more full. So as I'm tapering this, I'll go up with a higher guard number. This is a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, and I will just kind of flick out that corner that's there, leaving it easier to use a clipper over comb afterwards. I kind of at an angle just to get those edges off versus going straight. You're going to get more of a straight blunt cut. This kind of gives it a little bit of an elongated texture. You can get those corners easier. He kind of has this dark spot right here because his head indents. But if you take the corner of your clipper, and when I use my shears, you definitely get that in there a little bit more too. This is just the bolt. Now I'm going to do some shear over comb work just to get those extra little hairs that you can't get with all that clipper. It's just too big, so this kind of gives me more free range of motion to get in there and kind of customize it. Still keeping that feathered look too. I'm not taking too much length off. Like I said, that dark spot, now I can get in there a little bit tighter and use that point of that shear just to get right in there. But we're not taking too much length off, we're just getting that texture out of there. That's all it really is. And so there's a difference between using this wider side versus this smaller tooth side. I will use that side to get some more details in. This is just kind of helping me get the more fullness of that hair. And then when I go through with this smaller tooth side, I can get these little guys through here. It picks up more hair almost. That's where I'm going to get more of that bulky area. See, we're not going into any of that feathered texture area. We're still leaving that so when it lays, it has more of that full texture like area. It's so nice. You get some like matte finish product in there that lays down. One thing I love about cutting Brent's hair is his different colors. You can always see such a good like taper between the different color lines, especially if you know kind of like where to go with it, how high to take it, where to not intercede with how this fullness is laying down. It's darker here, but then you have this lightness, but you can taper that out so well that it just lays so perfectly. I'm going to use a small tooth texturizer. It's going to just blend some of that out. We're not really taking a lot of length off. And this adds even some extra featheriness down here. Like, I know that we got the majority of that dark spot out that I was talking about, but these ones are going to help so much with getting in there and just getting that bulk out. Point cutting into that with your texturizers. It's like my favorite technique to get some of these darker indented head spots. Not that you have an indented head, don't worry about that. What's nice about doing that tapered neckline too is that they're always going to have a better grow-in time. They're not going to have this bushy, hairy craziness. And when you're lining them up, you don't have to worry about if your line's going to be straight down here because there shouldn't be a line. Right, Brent?
I don't want one.
He doesn't want a line. You'll get some guys who grow hair all the way down to the ears, and it's insane. Brent has a really nice growth above. I never take my lines too far in. I kind of stick with that more natural, especially with a more fuller look. You don't want something that's like fuller, a little more lived in to be so perfectly pressed. I believe in integration instead of balance. Balance is so hard to come by. Integration is so easy. And one thing to keep in mind that I know about Brent's hair and his life is he can do the more fuller, more relaxed look because of his lifestyle, what he does, and his styling techniques. He blow dries every day, right? He blow dries. Yep, he uses product before and after. And he works in the high-end, like, retail field, and so we gotta keep him looking good. But I make it accessible for his own lifestyle, so it's not like a hard haircut. It's not like you can't go home and replicate it, you know? Right? It's easy, you can go home and do it yourself. I think that's one thing that I've always like tried to make for my clients. Like, you don't have to go home and use a round brush. You don't have to. You're gonna be able to go home and do this without it. So. How long does it take you to do your hair in the morning, Brent?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah. One thing that people don't understand sometimes when they want longer hair is that you actually have to style it for the most part. It doesn't just come naturally. People are like, do you just wake up and your hair's like that, huh? No.
Well, that also includes beard time.
So I'm just finding a little bit of that 1/4 inch corner that's everywhere. Just taking that off. It's still blending down. When I get to this side, I usually kind of take it back just a little bit so it kind of lay at an angle. So with Brent, he really likes the length and a little bit more of that square shape. So we're gonna taper here just a little bit. I'm gonna get some of these wispies off. We're gonna keep the shape for the most part, taper it off his lip. He likes it tapered off his lip. And clean up the cheeks and everything under there as well. So, all right, sounds good.
You know, I've known several, between some competition people that
One of my favorite things is using a swivel shear because I can literally get in here and under and not have to like try to pinch and do all these weird things. My hand will move with the full shape of his beard, getting these wispies off without having to like get super in there, too in depth. You don't want to take too much length off. He likes the length. So this is the Hanzo 6.0, HH what 86, 65. So it's just a single swivel. It's not a double. The double you could like turn it all the way around. You can still do that with this, but this is just nice because I can like get around this shape without having to like bend my entire elbow and wrist. Just more ergonomical. I think it's more beneficial for getting under these beards. Like getting down here can be so hard, but I can come at it at different angles with moving my thumb. And most people will use clippers on beards. I mean, I do for the most part if I'm taking length off, but because we're cleaning most of it up, just trimming it, these shears work so much better. I always come from the back. I always try to see where like somebody was standing behind him on the subway or whatever, like, oh, he has a wispy hair here. Nobody would say that about Brent though, because he perfectly portions it with product and everything. Do you blow dry your beard too, Brent? Yeah, we've taught him well. So like I said, with keeping the length on there, I kind of will bounce my shears against the beard, that fullness of it, and I kind of just find those hairs that stick out, because once you push it up, you're going to get where that beard's going to lie for the most part. So I kind of will bounce it, and I'll find those hairs that stick out, and I'm just barely trimming those off. Typically when I use my shears too, I'm always using the edge of it. I'm not really going in with this full back end of it. I use the ends of it, I have more control of what I'm cutting versus using a full piece of it. And let's say we're not all perfect, but you're gonna try to go in there. What happens if you catch the back part of that? Well, we're gonna take some length off. So like I said, that bouncing technique, it will push most of it up and then it will let those hairs out that shouldn't be there. And like I said, with those swivels, I can see where this corner is and I can just follow it without having to like get crazy with my hand. My thumb will just move and rotate with the shape of the beard versus creating a corner and taking that corner out. Really short shear, it's a 5-inch shear. Gives me more control over these little areas.
Thank you.
And using that smaller tooth side of the comb, you'll be able to pull more of those hairs down.
That compliment will sustain me for the next month.
That's true.
I'll remember that. Yeah. I'll write it down too. This is why I come here. For the compliments. I feel so pretty.
You feel pretty. Why do you feel pretty?
Wait, so they say when?
So I find like, I kind of like to keep my mustaches more natural versus keeping them super clean. Like I said, integration versus balance. Balance, you're just gonna get such a heavy, I've seen clippers and they just make such a heavy line. You can still taper it out. I like a little bit more natural. I'll taper with the shears, just pulling out just a little bit. I find the long hairs that are up here though, and I'll get those off for sure. Like I said, those tips of those shears are gonna be your best friend. Don't use the full thing.
And then they could always find a set.
And he likes a little length here too, kind of pull down, right? He like a little bit of length to kind of move
Well,
it.
and I wax it every once in a while.
Yeah, he waxes a little bit.
This is my first rodeo. Come on,
Then you're
kid.
5 years too.
Yeah, come on.
And I'll just skim over that, make sure there's nothing hanging out.
Yeah. You gotta be 14 and up.
You can totally see the difference in those. This one's still a little bit more natural. It's not as harsh as some mustache lines, but it's way more cleaned up. Still a lot more tapered than that other side too. So I'll start in this little area right here so I can make sure they're matching, and then I'll kind of find the same length on through the sides.
Totally chill. Yeah. That's awesome.
Your scan? This is what's one of your favorites?
Top, yeah.
What I love about the shears and that mustache versus a trimmer is I can pull this down and I can find one individual hair that's just a little too long and I can get it versus having my clippers who have made that sharp line now that I can't get out of. I'm just going to clean up his cheeks a little bit with the trimmers. I'm going to get above this lip and then we'll lay him back and do all the good stuff. And I don't take a dramatic line on this cheek. I kind of keep it where the natural is. And he has a little bit of the color difference, which is nice because then it kind of creates like a more, it creates more depth right there.
It's just, you know, like that kind of lifestyle.
I get right above that lip. I don't take too much off. I just make sure there's nothing straggly on top of it. I love to give like a really good point right here though, to create that difference between the mustache and the beard. I would typically normally clean this up for most people. Brent likes to keep this more natural. It keeps it more full for him back here. With his hair texture, it kind of curls into there as well. We usually leave it a bit more natural. I'm going to take some of these off. And one thing about keeping a more full beard is you want more length under this under part down here. It'll push most of that up, so it gives you more fullness. Creates more fullness back here. I've seen a lot of guys take this in really tight and then they complain that they don't have any fullness back here, and that's their reason. And I typically book my beard clients, what, 4 weeks? You come every 4 weeks, every month? Because then I'll know the next time they come in where my line was, and I won't have to go try to find a new one. So on a new client, when you're trying to find their beard line and what you want to do, I mean, what I usually do is I go off the bottom of their lip line, and I find where it matches here, and I create that connection. So the bottom of the lip up to that cheek right there. Because Brent comes in so often, I can naturally find where his lip line or his cheek line is. Ready? Mm-hmm. Scoot up this little chair. Typically, we're not going to take any hairs off, a lot of length. I just want to see if there's anything that didn't bounce out for me.
It's like Cape Cod. That's what white I think.
It's a real thing.
And Brent usually likes to keep a more natural line under here. We don't take it too sharp or too high. I like to apply something that will help open up the pores. This has a little bit of menthol in it, and it kind of helps open up those pores and soften the skin and the hair. Temperature okay?
Yeah. And this looks great. This is nice and faded. Like I say, we're going to stick up with some gas. We're going to tell you to shake a water here next.
Okay, so.
I don't create a very heavy layer of lather, and I like to be able to wipe it. While I'm wiping though, one of the main reasons I'm doing that is making sure there's no like bumps or any abrasions on the skin that I'm going to catch.
Okay.
I do a very light pull, and I just use the tip of my blade for most of it. I do a lot of backhand too with my beard trims. For me, it just comes more natural. I played tennis for a while, and I was always the backhand king. Backhand compliments, you know. I just feel like I have more control with that tip of that blade, especially in these little corner areas. One thing that's always very important to watch is the hair growth. If I shave down on that, it would probably be a little irritating, so I'm just going to come up against it. I'm going to come from the other side. I'm still using that tip, because if I use the full blade, that back end of the blade could catch, and we don't want that. You have more control when you're just using that tip. The Adam's apple, I kind of stop before I get all the way there. I have a little trick that I'll show you in just a minute. And like I said, we keep this a little more natural, so we still take a sharp line, but we don't go too high with it. So with Adam's apples, I always pull the skin over off to the side, so I'm not shaving over that bone.
But also flexible enough that you're able to mess with it.
Everyone gets so intimidated. I've never mind, I'm not gonna say it right now.
Today would be the day.
I always like to check just to make sure my lines are even.
Yes, just this. That's all I need.
That's all it is.
I'm gonna go out and slay.
Cold towel to close down the pore.
And a blow dryer too. Oh, we'll get there. Someday. Someday I'll get to get a blow dryer. That'll be the day. Okay, here's the top one.
Okay.
Get about that much there for me.
Okay.
And then I sprayed in
That's good enough.
sea salt spray before, so it kind of helped with bringing it back. But this is looking
The way that I like to apply the product is I use the oil first, which is most common. I use about 4 drops.
It's gonna still be that nice and flexible.
I get it warm in my hand so it opens up the molecules.
You like it?
Yeah.
And I try to apply it as close to the face as possible. I've always felt like the oil helps the face with the dryness more than anything else.
Yeah.
I use a little bit of styling balm.
The sea salt spray, and is it only good for
This was 4 vices.
They're good. It gives you a lot of texture in the hair. I also had to just
And this I kind of like will lay over and make sure it's mostly on the hair.
Okay.
but it adds texture into your hair. I think it's a pretty blow dry product. So that I have a little bit of gradient and style.
Use a very low speed and very low heat. If you don't want to use any heat, you don't have to. The heat will just kind of help shape the hair a little bit more.
Love it? Good.
Yeah, absolutely. From the side, it looks like this looks fun. Yeah, sorry, I don't need to worry.
How are you doing?
Texture.
But it's also just kind of.
Like I said, I try to show my guys that they don't need a brush to do their hair. So I do more of a free-handed. More of that integration, whatever you want to call it. To make life easy, we use the styling balm in your beard. We're going to use it in your hair as well because it's the same thing. That's the 4x styling balm, yeah. So it gets a little bit of an extra hold. It's kind of a matte finish. You can just share that same smell all day long. It's not too heavy, too sticky or anything.
You might take it as a rotation. So you're going to fly.
Brent might be good too.
You can do whatever you want, whatever's natural for you. It's your hair. You style it every day, not me.
Cool.
Thanks.
You did leave curls.
I know.
I got waves.
Beardbrand beard oil, often copied, often imitated, often compared to. It is the pinnacle beard oil in the market. Head over to beardbrand.com and invest in your beard, invest in yourself, and keep on growing.